What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel, and Championship Week preview predictions are continuing on the channel today. Every single Power 5 every single Power 5 championship game has a preview and prediction on the channel already. So if you're a fan of a Power 5 team, you want to watch a Power 5 one go through, you can look through on my channel. But I'm also not going to just give love to the Power 5. You guys know I love to show love to the Group of 5 on here, and we're going to preview predict every single Group of 5 conference championship game, and it's going to start with this one right here. The American Athletic houses the Group of 5 champion from last season, the Tulane Green Wave, and they're going to look to get back to a New Year's Six bowl game and defend their conference title against the SMU Mustangs. We'll dive on into everything Mustangs and Green Wave in just a little bit, but before I do that, you guys know I got to say thank you for all the love and support the channel has seen as of late. It's been crazy to me, and hey, look, pretty much anything you do to interact with the channel helps to support what I do here, whether that's anything as simple as liking, commenting, sharing, hitting the subscribe button, ringing the bell, or just simply by watching the video, you are helping to support what I do here on this channel, and I do appreciate anything that you guys are willing and able to do to help support me. But enough about that and enough about me. Let's dive on into this championship week prediction between the SMU Mustangs and the Tulane Green Wave. It should be a fun one here from the home field of the Green Wave in New Orleans, Louisiana. Diving on into the offense for the SMU Mustangs. First, you guys know we usually start with the road team here. Preston Stone has been the quarterback all season long, ever since Tanner Mordecai transferred over to Wisconsin, and he's been great. 3,197 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 6 picks, and this is an SMU offense that has been one of the best in the American Athletic all season long. There is just a very, very small problem. Now, they have a lot of weapons in the wide receiver room and in the running back stable that we will get to in a minute, but Preston Stone will not be playing in this game. He is hurt. He is going to be out with a leg injury that he suffered last week against Navy. Now, this is an SMU team that has been a very balanced attack all season long. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. This is an offense that can really do anything. Now you're going to have to adjust your game plan to maybe lean a little bit more on the run. Now you may be asking who is going to play in place of Preston Stone. Well, it will either be one, Kevin Jennings, probably likely to end up getting that start, but if it is not him, could end up being Alex Padilla, the former Iowa transfer. Maybe we see Keldrick Luster in there as well. I'm going to go ahead and go with Jennings as kind of the guy that I feel like is going to start this game for the Mustangs. And again, in very, very limited playing time, he hasn't played bad this year either. Has 75% completion percentage, 18 of 24, 224 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the season. And he's actually averaging the same number of pass per completion that Preston Stone has averaged all season long. Now, again, that is in a very, very limited sample size. And obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say I believe Jennings is a better quarterback than Preston Stone. But if Jennings can manage the game, he has a lot of good weapons around him. A trio of running backs that they like to sub in and out fairly often, and Jalen Knighton, LJ Johnson, and Kamar Wheaton. And then you have 8 wide receivers that are over 300 yards receiving and have at least 18 catches on the season. In fact, 6 of them have at least 21 catches on the season. So you have a very, very versatile group. You have a lot of different playmakers that you can rely on no matter who is playing quarterback, since it will not be Preston Stone. And it's an offense that doesn't turn the football over. And it's pretty good at preventing pressure there as well. Only 14 sacks. That's 1.17 per game allowed on the season. Let's move on over to the defensive side of the ball for the SMU Mustangs. And boy, this secondary is definitely the feature of this defense. They have forced 10 interceptions on the year, 50 passes defended. Oh, and by the way, 4 of those 10 picks have been ran back to the house. They have been for touchdowns. So this has been a very, very good defensive secondary all season long. You see they're allowing under 185 pass yards per game. Really should just say under 200 pass yards per game. And hey, the rush defense, not too shabby as well. They're able to generate pressure, a whopping 40 sacks on the season. SMU has been one of the best offensive and defensive teams in the American Athletic all season long. But their only problem here is you have to go up against the team that represented the Group of 5 and won a New Year's Six bowl game last year in the Tulane Green Wave. Now, offensively, the statistics are not going to look as impressive as they did a season ago. However, Michael Pratt has still been the quarterback, and he has been managing the game very, very effectively for Tulane, even though throughout the season there have been some injuries that have plagued him. 2,168 yards on 66% completion percentage, 21 touchdowns, and 4 picks is what Michael Pratt's stat line looks like so far this season. Hey, you have Tajee Spears gone. He is now with the Tennessee Titans. You were really kind of figuring, hey, who is going to step up in this running back room? Well, it is a one by the name of Mekhi Hughes. 232 carries for 1,246 yards, 5.4 yards per carry, and 7 touchdowns on the season. You figure a guy with that many yards has a little bit more touchdowns, but Mekhi Hughes overall has been running very, very well for this Tulane Green Wave team. And then when you dive into the wide receiver room, yes, you lost your 2 lead wide receivers from a season ago, but Chris Brazzell is their leading receiver, 41 catches, 670 yards, 5 touchdowns. Lawrence Keys, a former Notre Dame transfer, is not far behind with 599 yards and 7 touchdowns. The tight end Bauman has 5 touchdowns, and then Jackson, Jaquan Jackson has 4 receiving touchdowns of his own with 421 yards there as well. Now, this is an offense that's fairly prone to turnovers, not necessarily through the air. Only 6 picks there, 4 to Michael Pratt, 2 to his backup in Kai Horton. But fumbling the ball has been an issue for this Tulane offense. You got to be able to hold on to the ball here, even without Preston Stone. This is an SMU offense that, again, as I've talked about, has a lot of dynamic playmakers, and they're going to be able to make Tulane pay if they turn the football over or if they allow pressure to get back to Michael Pratt. The defense really good at forcing pressure, as you've seen. Defensively, though, for Tulane, while their secondary is pretty spotty, they do have 45 pass defended, and they forced 15 interceptions on the season. They've also recovered every single fumble that has been forced by this Tulane defense. That's 22 turnovers on the year. That is an insane number. Tulane loves to force turnovers. Now, albeit 5 of those did come in the game against the UTSA Roadrunners just this past week. And it felt like UTSA was outplaying them. They were outgaining them. They really felt like they were the better team. It was just turnovers killed them, turned them into short fields, and Tulane was able to walk away victorious. We'll talk more about that here in just a moment. But for as spotty as this secondary may be with the Tulane Green Wave, it does like to force turnovers. And when you take a look at the defensive front 7, I mean, it's one of the best in the country at not only being able to generate pressure. You have 3 absolute monsters, absolute units of being able to create pressure to the quarterback. Darius Hodges has 7.5 sacks, Patrick Jenkins with 5.5 sacks, and then Keith Cooper with 5 sacks. All 3 of those guys play on the defensive line, and they are massive. They are absolute monsters. They get after the quarterback. Oh, and this is also one of the best rush defenses, not only in the American Athletic, but in the entire country as well. Let's dive on into your keys to the game. I call it your what to watch for. It's just some things I think you should keep an eye on while you're paying attention to this one. Obviously, starting out with the keys for the SMU Mustangs. It's going to be really interesting to watch how the Mustangs adjust to not having Preston Stone under the center. You're obviously going to have to lean a little bit more on the run, and maybe a heavy dose of the run is over-exaggerating it a little bit, because SMU, I do think, is going to have their chances where they can throw the ball here in this game. You have a lot of talented weapons. You have a lot of talented weapons for either Jennings, Padilla, or Luster to be able to work with. So I do expect them to have a fairly good amount of passing here in this game. You're obviously going to have to lean a little bit more on the run, though, just given the innate passing ability that Preston Stone brings to this team. So guys like Knighton, Johnson, Wheaton, I expect those 3 guys to get a little bit more carries than they're used to, but because there are 3 of them, they're going to be able to rotate them out. Obviously, Knighton is that feature back, with Johnson and Wheaton following behind in that order, but I do expect this SMU offense to have to adjust. You're going to rely on the run a little bit more heavily, and we'll see how the quarterback is able to manage and control the clock. I think that is a huge thing here. With Preston Stone out, this is an offense that is going to have to control the clock. And by that, I mean you have to control the pace of the game. Now, SMU wants to play fast, and the offense may very well probably end up playing fast here in this game. But I think in this game, without Preston Stone, you got to keep Michael Pratt off the field as much as possible. And no matter who plays quarterback here, again, Jennings, Padilla, or Luster, I happen to believe it'll be Jennings, manage the clock, which means no turnovers. Don't do anything dumb with the football. Play smart, sound football, make the smart plays, and manage the game effectively. Talk a little bit more about that when we get to Tulane. But defensively, I think it's really important for SMU to win the battle at the line of scrimmage. In fact, I think it's important for them to do that really in both facets. The offensive line has got to be able to limit the 3 guys that I've talked about, Jenkins, Cooper, and Hodges, at being able to bring pressure to their quarterback, who is definitely going to be playing, no matter who it is, the biggest game of their young career, it would have been that way for Preston Stone there as well. But for Jennings, Padilla, or Luster, by far going to be the biggest game that they have ever played in. So you got to be able to give them time to throw, but you also have got to be able to get back to Michael Pratt. This is the Tulane offensive line that has some holes that SMU is good enough to exploit. You got to be able to exploit them, bring Michael Pratt down, be able to get to Mekhi Hughes in the backfield quickly and early and often. Let's move on to the keys for the Tulane Green Wave after this water break. Sorry, I had to really reach for my water that time. And hey, make sure you stay hydrated. Water is important. Now to your keys for the game, your what to watch for the Tulane Green Wave. Their rush game is also going to be heavily relied upon, but unlike what SMU is going to do in this game, in leaning on the run a little bit more, this is nothing new for Tulane. They've led on the run a little bit more than they have in the past couple of seasons. Why? Well, yes, their wide receiver room is not as talented. Does it have some really good players? Yes. Is Michael Pratt having as good of a season as he did last year? No, he's become more of a game manager than a game breaker, but still has that game breaking ability Michael Pratt does. So Tulane's rush game is also going to be heavily relied upon as well. 1,246 yards, 7 touchdowns. I believe I said that stat line earlier. Mekhi Hughes, I think, is going to have himself a day. Now, you're not going to be able to just solely run on this SMU front, but knowing how strong SMU's secondary is and knowing how confident Tulane is in Mekhi Hughes to be able to run, I do expect them to be able to lean on the run here. I expect a lot more running than passing for both teams here in this game. But speaking of passing, I think what Tulane has that SMU doesn't in this game is a quarterback that has proven that he can manage the game effectively. And with Preston Stone out, Michael Pratt is going to be the better quarterback on the field. You could argue that it was going to be Preston Stone if he was healthy and ready to go here in this game, but it is not. And Michael Pratt is going to be the best quarterback here on the field. His stat line might not show what he's fully capable of this season, but he's going to manage the game effectively. He's a very experienced quarterback. He's going to make the smart plays. He's going to make the right reads, and he's going to give his team the best chance possible to win. Oh, and we know Michael Pratt can get outside of the pocket and run. He doesn't really show it often, or actually does show it fairly often. Sorry, I was reading the wrong stat line there. 88 carries for 321 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns for him. He's going to manage the game and make the right decisions. But the thing that I think is helping Tulane on top of everything that I've talked about is they've been on the stage before. They know what it takes to win an American Athletic Championship game. They know what it takes to get to the big stage for all group of 5 teams and be able to get to a New Year's Six bowl game. Obviously, that's going to change next year with the 12-team playoff field, but I feel like Tulane has got this one in the bag. Now, is SMU going to make it tough? Yes. I think this a pass rush in this secondary is going to make life really difficult for this Tulane offense to be able to move early on, and maybe SMU finds something with Jennings that's able to get this offense in an early groove, but I do not think it's going to last. I think with SMU having to adjust their scheme without their star quarterback in Preston Stone, I think that's going to hurt him, because if you're going to try to run on this Tulane team, which unfortunately is just what SMU is going to have to want to do a little bit more of than what they would have liked to do coming into this week, it's just not going to work. This is a really good Tulane run defense. Michael Pratt's going to manage the game. Mekhi Hughes will rip off a couple of big runs, and I also ultimately think that Tulane will win the turnover battle, and there you have it. Tulane will not walk into, this is going to be a very tough game, but they are going to be heading back to a New Year's Six bowl game as the champions of the Group of 5 and champions of the American Athletic. Let me know how you guys see this game playing out in the comment section below. As always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.